Hello again. We're still here at CineGear 2025, Condor Blue Booth, stage 30. I nailed it that time, didn't I? And we're here with Jason Elliott, right?
Hello, hello.
Thanks for joining me. I was going to do a little bio, but I don't want to do that.
I feel weird
Yeah.
doing bios. It's fine.
If we were in an elevator, you would say that maybe you're most known for shooting Mr. Beast stuff.
Yeah.
Small little YouTube channel.
Hey, he's out there. You might have seen him.
But what I wanted to talk to you about was there's this interesting thing about what is YouTube in terms of how it fits in, especially when my content appeals to a lot of the filmmaker audience. It's like, am I in the filmmaking space? And if so, what am I doing? What is a YouTube channel? What if somebody's making short films on YouTube? What does that all mean? And then how does that work within the more traditional legacy approaches to that? And then you possibly as being somebody who's taking the intermediary path or whatever could possibly shed some light on going from YouTube earlier in that YouTube journey of yours up to where you want to take it, and
So
take it away.
Super short career-wise. Prior to the YouTube stuff, I was in the traditional world. I didn't do anything huge, but that was like 19 years of my career. Then I got into the YouTube space and was super interested in it because it was this like fresh new take on creating entertainment, and that it was more authentic in a way. And I think that's a lot of the attraction of the viewers and stuff is no matter what genre you're talking about, either your filmmaking genre, tech review genre, just the vlog space, it's very personal, authentic, and the viewers feel like a better connection with you as a creator. And I think that's one of the huge things, driving forces behind YouTube and that type of space. But then we moved on to doing our own, I guess, mostly traditional show of Beast Games. And that was a really awesome space where we could combine all of the cool, authentic YouTube stuff we've got along with everything in the traditional space as well and create like a really hybrid show, which was a huge challenge at the same time, but it was a lot of fun. And I think opened up a lot of doors and a lot of learning experiences for us, as well as the industry and other creators, and just this whole thing I could probably talk for hours and hours about.
What would you say? So, am I wrong in that it was? I thought you were. Did you do previous to Beast Games? Were you also just responsible for a lot of the core videos on Jimmy's channel? Is that a whale?
Yeah, so for about 3 years ahead of Beast Games, I was the head of camera and like company DP for all the main channel stuff.
So that's the part that I find interesting is how did you find that in terms of, now that would be an exception too. I think the way that the Mr. Beast YouTube channel is run, with both budget and approach, is a lot different than maybe, the standard YouTube channel, if you will. But would you say that it, especially in the later years, fell a lot closer to more traditional, style and techniques?
Absolutely. I mean, when we started, it was more of just film everything just to film everything, so that we don't see someone stepping on a line or whatever the case may be for the particular video. But as we got more into it, we realized that we did have a style and a brand that we needed to maintain, but we also could start better telling our stories throughout all of that. And better equipment, better lighting, all of those things started to kind of really intermingle with all of it. So it definitely, there's a lot more of a traditional aspect to it than I think anybody really realizes.
And so if I can jump ahead and then come back, where are you going now? And then I have questions about the Mr. Beast thing, but I'm curious,
Okay.
What's your trajectory now?
So for those that don't know, after Beast Games, I left the channel and kind of want to go do my own thing. Ultimately, I want to move into directing, but I want to stay kind of back into the narrative space, the traditional world, but I also kind of really want to stay in the hybrid space. And after what we created, I'm hoping that more content creators get the opportunity to make similar shows, and whatever size budget, irrelevant, but to get that opportunity to get out there on the bigger platforms, that type of thing, and ultimately hope to work with them on that, because it is a really tough process to stay true to your brand as a creator, but also make a more traditional inline show. And if you're not careful, you're going to go one way or the other when you hopefully stay in the middle and have that hybrid show.
Unless I'm mishearing it, it sounds like you're saying that you'd like to be the director of YouTube cross enterprises.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's ultimately where it would be.
That's cool. When you guys worked on the show it was Amazon, right?
Yes, Amazon Prime.
Did it work changes or concessions had to be made from how you were, like, roles shifted around, were new people brought in? Like, how was it different going from the YouTube to the
We had a very large crew on that, as you may have heard, but it was a combination of a lot of people from the channel, and then it was a lot of traditional producers and editors and story people and all that type of stuff. And it was quite the process, to blend together and all of that. Of course, you run into certain limitations and scheduling, and there's tighter budgeting on certain types of things, and you're using a lot higher end equipment and all of that. So there's a lot more on the technical side you have to consider before you ever get started. That's both on camera side, but also the builds. When we built things, we had to really consider every aspect of where the built-in lighting was going to be, how we were going to route power, our signals routing. A lot of especially episode 1 with the trapdoors, that was all this mechanical contraption. That all had to be as solid and professionally built as it possibly could be.
I assume you brought in
absolutely.
For this,
So it was an expert in every single aspect of all of that. We brought in to either do it or consult and that kind of stuff. So very heavily leaned on their traditional experience in that type of stuff, and we ultimately had to find a way to work together, which we did. Thankfully, they were very open to it. We were very open to it, and I think that's what made the show work in the end.
Yeah, something I wondered about was if the Beast crew would have felt a little fish out of water, and conversely, any kind of imposter syndrome or whatever, or where maybe when you are working on something of this budget with, all these professional veteran producers running around, if there was any kind of like, who are these YouTube people? They don't know what they're doing around here. Like,
there's a little bit of that, yeah. But then I think it goes both ways. Everybody was, I won't say nervous, but it was unsure of how we were going to make it all work in the beginning, and ultimately just had to sit down and go, hey, we're going to do this. We have to make it work together, and the faster we figure out how to do that and we're all happy with it, the better it'll be for everyone. And so I think we're super lucky. We figured it out really early on.
What were some of the bigger changes throughout? You said 3 years or 3.5 years that you shot for
the main channel.
The main channel. Yeah. From when you started to when you left, in terms of production, maybe whatever you want to talk about, cameras, how you lit things. Like, was there a big shift during that time?
I guess from start to finish, yeah, but not. It was a very slow shift. We tried to.
But if you could come in day one and last day,
yeah.
What were some of the bigger differences from beginning to end in terms of how you did things?
We started to in-house a lot of stuff. In the beginning, there was no team at all. When I started, it was all freelancers on the camera side. And by the end of it, when I left, we had built out multiple camera teams. We owned a ton of our own gear. We owned all of our own lighting. So it really became our own internal production house in that sense. So yeah, day one is just a closet with a couple cameras in there and a GoPro or two. And then finally, we have an entire, probably third of the studio space taken up with lighting and tons and tons of cameras and everything you could imagine that you would need. So self-sustaining, I guess.
Makes you wonder if that space couldn't also be turned into more production for, like a regular studio.
It was. I mean, it's part of the main studio. The funny part is because we had a room, but we outgrew the room so fast, we just had to take up studio floor space, and we didn't have time to really kind of figure it out. So we're just putting stuff on shelves, and
I guess like the output is still quite high. They're not, but it'd be funny if ever they used studios or whatever, and just shooting your own video there.
I think that's what it would grow into, and maybe it will in a couple of years. Who knows?
So tell me a little bit about games. What was your role specifically?
I was the. I mean, obviously, in the space and more I love to work with.
No, first, when you say a show like that, you don't necessarily mean a reality game show kind of thing.
No,
You just mean a larger scale
something that matches their brand.
with distribution and
Yes,
that kind
exactly.
of thing. But would you be interested even if it was a lot quieter, narrative, slow,
Oh, yeah.
like, you
Yeah.
know?
I love the slower stuff just as much. Telling a story and being really cinematic with it and very intentional. I absolutely love that type of stuff as well.
I think it's an exciting. I mean, obviously, I'm being from the YouTube side. I'm happy whenever I hear about anything kind of more legitimizing.
Yeah.
People like me. I'm just making videos in my basement, but there are people on the platform that are doing pretty incredible things, and it's not even really knocked the distribution because YouTube can be an interesting platform for distribution.
Absolutely.
But there is still some sort of, I think, at times, legitimacy question.
Agreed.
And if you put some producers and the word Amazon on it, or I feel like it gets rid of that stigma.
It definitely helps. But that was the goal of that show, and at least from my perspective, and both on a people standpoint, a technology standpoint, and a style standpoint, is hopefully showing that, hey, you can blend these two worlds together, and it works.
Yeah.
And we should do it more with more people.
Well, you're doing the Lord's work for YouTube, then, I guess. Jason, I won't take any more of your time, but it was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Absolutely.
for chatting
Anytime.
with me.
Thanks for everybody watching.
And cut. I don't know who I'm talking to.